Everybody ready? Okay. Call to order the May 2nd, 2017 Board of Commissioner meeting. Just a reminder, please silence your cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agendas are located at the back of the chambers on the bookcases. First, we'll have a moment of silence and then Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Buskerud.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll have the review and approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
By DeSanto, second by Commissioner Buskerud. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is Executive Proclamation Public Service Recognition Week, May 7th through the 13th, 2017. Ms. Holly Hennies, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. You have several proclamations in front of you this morning. I would like to read the first one into the record. This is an executive proclamation for Public Service Recognition Week, which is May 7th through the 13th of 2017. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels. These unsung champions do the work that keep our nations going. And whereas the men and women who work for our county or for our government tackle some of the most important challenges and opportunities facing our country, and whereas public employees take not only jobs but oaths, and whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials, and whereas the Pennington County Board of Commissioners is extremely proud of the dedication shown by its employees. Day in and day out, they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And now therefore we, the Pennington County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2017 as Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. Join us this week and throughout the year in showing them respect and appreciation they seldom receive, yet richly deserved.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Do we have a motion to recognize the Public Service Recognition Week?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner DeSanto, second by Commissioner, what's your name? Just kidding, LaCroix. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 6 is Executive Proclamation, Pennington County Corrections Week, May 7th through the 13th, 2017. Sheriff Kevin Tome, please.
Morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. Also with me is Rob Yantis, he's a jail commander, and Joe Gutierrez is the commander at Juvenile Services Center. And they have some staff with them that they'll introduce, and one of the correctional officers will read the proclamation, which we appreciate you recognizing our correctional staff this morning. They don't have an easy task. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day out of the year they're working, and that includes holidays and everything else. So it's they're very dedicated, tough clientele to deal with, so thank you for recognizing them, and I'll let Rob and Joe introduce their staff.
Okay, where's your 2 uniforms? Which ones look not like the others,
You know,
Sheriff?
I'm surprised Joe had one. I didn't know he did, so.
That's what I said when I saw him. I think that's just funny.
Good morning. I'd like to recognize the staff from the Juvenile Services Center that are here. Correctional Officers Darius McMullen, Mary Alhaj, Anisha Morton,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Heather Wood, and Sergeant Tim Lindblom. This is our JSC staff today.
Thanks.
I'll ask you to stay standing and I'll introduce the rest. Sergeant Jeff Bull, Sergeant Wilson, CO Wojcik, CO Luzzi, CO Trevelyan, Officer Daniel, and Lieutenant Houston. These officers represent 73 years of service at our facility.
How tall is Mr. Wolchek?
6'7".
Oh, I guess 6'5". He needs a flat top. Sorry, sir.
So for the proclamation for Pennington County Corrections Week, May 7th through the 13th, 2017. Whereas May 7th through May 13th, 2017 will be celebrated across the United States as National Corrections Week. And whereas the corrections profession is one of the most challenging professions one can pursue, it is also one of the most noble. Correction staff help keep our citizens and our community safe, not simply by securing jails and juvenile detention facilities and the offenders confined therein. Correctional employees serve admirably throughout the Pennington County Jail and Juvenile Services Center as custody officers, counselors, teachers, chaplains, healthcare professionals, support staff, supervisors, and commanders. They are among the most capable, committed, patient, and persistent public servants in our nation. And whereas few truly understand the difficulties and challenges these corrections professionals face daily, often at personal risk. They are given those who have engaged in dangerous and addictive behaviors, along with the responsibility to reform and rehabilitate. They are given society's illiterate and unskilled, and they are tasked to educate. They are given those who lack medical care or who are in poor health and must help make them well. They are given the mentally ill and the responsibility to diagnose, treat, and protect. Correction staff are in a position to offer offenders a better example and a new path. These staff do so with limited resources and often with little awareness or acknowledgement from those outside the field of corrections. Yet, correctional employees continue to rise to the challenge time and again. And whereas it is appropriate we honor the correction staff in our Pennington County correctional facilities for their invaluable contribution to our society. Now therefore, we, the Board of County Commissioners, County of Pennington, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim the week of May 7th through May 13th, 2017 as Pennington County Corrections Week, and encourage the citizens of Pennington County to share in acknowledging the outstanding job that Pennington County Corrections staff perform on a daily basis in serving the entire community. Dated the second day of May, 2017.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tome, anything else? No. Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion on the proclamation for the County Corrections Week?
Who moved?
Moved by Mr. Buskard and second by Mr. LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Correction.
All opposed?
There's a correction.
Yes, sir.
Before you sign it, Joe, you should make the date right, Joe.
May 7th through the 13th.
Right, so that
Right,
has
it's
to,
on there.
it says May 9th.
Okay.
We need to correct that.
Thank you, sir. Did you get that, Holly? It says May 9th on the proclamation. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 7 is the Pennington County Resolution Wildfire Awareness Month, May 2017. Jerome Harvey, our fire administrator. Is he taller than you? The guy that was just, are you 6'7"?
Whoa, check.
I was 6'7", like when I was
You
sophomore in
shrank?
high school, so
You shrank?
growing the wrong way. Appreciate the opportunity, Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Service Administrator. Appreciate the opportunity for the commissioners to recognize the importance of wildland urban interface fires, especially here in Pennington County, as we have continued to address those concerns and realize how important it is to our economy here. But our resolution supporting Wildfire Awareness Month is whereas the commissioners of Pennington County are charged with protecting the health and safety of the citizens of Pennington County, including all property situated within. And wildfire threatens the environmental, economic, and social well-being of Pennington County residents while challenging firefighters' efforts to protect life and property. The commissioners of Pennington County have determined that in the interest of public health and safety, Wildfire suppression costs represent only a small portion of overall economic impacts and do not reflect the total cost of catastrophic fires. And residents have the responsibility to recognize the high risk of wildfire and institute safe and early evacuation plans, increase their home and property's resistance to wildfire, and create fire-adapted communities to increase the safety and survivability of the public and emergency personnel. Wildfire Awareness Month is an important opportunity for Pennington County residents to reduce the risk of wildfire, increase firefighter safety, and enhance public safety and understanding of involvement in the fire ecosystem through ongoing education, fire safety, preparation, and prevention. And now it be resolved that the Pennington County Commission supports the month of May 2017 as South Dakota Wildfire Awareness Month, and therefore be further resolved that the theme this year is Be Ember Aware. It is a call for residents of Pennington County to educate themselves and to take action to reduce the wildfire threat to their homes, properties, and help them move forward towards becoming a more fire-adapted community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome. Do we have a motion on the Wildfire Awareness Month?
So moved.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by Mr. Buskerud. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, volunteers of all these groups, the public service, the correction officers, the wildfire awareness people that keep our county safe and secure. We appreciate everything they do as a commission. Thank you. Miss Hawley.
Good morning again. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items 8 through 10. Number 8 is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of April 18th, 2017. Number 9 is to acknowledge the notice of intent to conduct a raffle submitted by the Performing Arts Center of Rapid City. And number 10 is approval of the Adopt a Highway application for an approximate 2-mile portion of Mystic Road by the Hargens family.
Did you get them all, Miss Hawley? Okay. So at this time, is there any members of the public who wish to remove any items from the consent agenda 8 through 10? At this time, are there any commissioners who wish to remove any items from the consent agenda for further discussion 8 through 10? If not, do we have a motion?
Move for approval, 8, 9, 10. Second.
For approval, 8 through 10, by LaCroy, second by
Second.
Mr. Buskard. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next, we're on the regular agenda items, 11 through 18. Number 11, I will be abstaining from number 11. I know the two individuals, and one comes to my church, so I'm going to have Mr. LaCroy take the mic.
Thank you, Ms. Hadcock. So we'll do with the lien request for D and Ed. And you must be Betsy?
I'm Betsy Harris.
The chair will recognize Betsy Harris.
Yes. First of all, thank you very much for allowing us to make this appearance, and I will tell you that Dan is pretty nervous this morning, but I told him all of your questions he will know the answers to because it's about him. I've known Dan for a long time because I represented him when I was at the Public Defender's Office, and he has come a great distance. He continues to be monitored by Judge Davis. Originally it was Judge Tice, but when he left the bench, Judge Davis took over the supervision of Dan's. He's under an order. That's part of what was the original findings in this case. And he's come a long distance. He continues to work at Hobby Lobby. That's where he was hired after he was released from the Human Services Center and brought back into the behavior management system. He continues with his psychiatrist on all of his medications. He is finding that as he approaches retirement, you're 61, right?
60.
60. I'm trying to make him older because then he'd be closer to me. He's 60 years old. He's approaching retirement. He worries about this debt that he has. And as he is proceeding, he sees that he's going to have a difficult time with paying it all back. We're asking the commission to either discharge the debt in recognition of the progress that he's made from the time that this awful event occurred, to the fact that he is an upstanding citizen at this time, working, paying taxes, taking care of himself the best that he knows how, and is using the resources that are within the community to stay healthy. Or our second request is that you consider reducing the amount of the lien so that he can see an end to this debt prior to his retirement. And we are available for questions from the commission.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions? Do we have anybody from the treasurer's office that could speak on, or the staff?
Treasurer or auditor?
The auditor's office is the one he pays the liens to.
Okay.
I didn't invite anybody, but I certainly could.
No. No, at this time, Betsy, we kind of looked through this. I don't see any comments at this time, but I will say something, I'll recommend Dan's progress has been tremendous, and he's made the attempts to make the payments, and I think getting well and following the program and having the guidance is good, and all the service that you've done, you've made strides, and I commend you for coming forward and foreseeing this as a problem and trying to find solutions for it. And I think that's a problem that we have in our community. We have that burden on there that we got to try to deal with in order for you to move on.
As Betsy Harris was noting, that I work for Hobby Lobbies, and I've been there for 10 years now. And the company has seen a reduction in the amount of people that come through our doors. And so with that taking place, I am a full-time employee there, and he's brought my hours down to 32 hours a week at $15.66 an hour. So I'm losing approximately $150 every 2 weeks, which is a burden. Normally I take home $950 a month, and now it's about $850 a month.
Well, normally the chair's not supposed to throw out a motion, but I will, just to see what happens. But I'd make the motion to discharge the lien.
I would second that with a comment.
Okay. I'll recognize Mark DeSanto.
I just want to compliment Daniel for your ongoing employment. I'm impressed with that. That's something that a lot of people, when they're struggling, choose not to continue and just go on government assistance. And I appreciate you doing that and working and attempting to pay down this debt. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner LaCroix. Number 12 is the County Cares presentation, the Crisis Care Center. Mr. Barry Tice. Did we talk about your socks or just the county, the crisis care?
We can move right along to the Crisis Care Center.
I've been in crisis ever since I saw your funny socks.
I was afraid Ellen and Randy weren't going to come up because maybe it's the company or maybe it's the socks.
Thank you, Barry. You're always nice.
Good morning, I'm Barry Tice, the Director of Pennington County Health and Human Services. And in a moment, I will turn the presentation over to Randy Allen, who's the Clinical Supervisor of the Crisis Care Center, along with Alan Solano, who's the CEO of Behavior Management Systems. Couple of notes, because I never want to steal Randy's thunder, but the Crisis Care Center, of course, is a facility that provides 24-hour, 7-day a week, 365 days a year crisis mitigation services. There's a qualified mental health professional that is on staff every single minute of the day up there. At the current location, 7,781 individuals have received care at this facility, and that's since 2011. The piece I want to emphasize is that this means thousands of diversions from facilities such as the Pennington County Jail, detox, the emergency room, or behavioral health unit, which may not be the right solution for the needs presented by individuals in crisis situations. One of the goals of the new county health facility is to provide the right services at the right time. We're excited for the inclusion of the Crisis Care Center within this facility. Our community continues to request services for mental health assistance, and the inclusion of the Crisis Care Center within the facility will ensure community members are provided with a stabilization plan and an option of additional services, including transitional case management, which provide individuals with additional options to work through crisis situations. Lastly, I'd like to say that someday I hope we can come up here and report a drastic decline in the number of suicides within Pennington County. And in a moment, you'll see the number did decline compared to last year, but as we always say, it would be nice to have 0 suicides within Pennington County. So with that, I'm going to take a seat and turn this over to Randy.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about the Crisis Care Center, and thank you for your ongoing support over the years. We're into our 7th year. It's kind of hard for me to believe that we've been open that long. We think it's a valuable service to the community, and we think that we have gotten as much support from the community, both Rapid City and Pennington County, as anybody could hope for. If I could get the slide. Okay. The original goals of the Crisis Care Center were to provide community with crisis options other than inpatient psychiatric care, incarcerations, or involuntary admission to detox, to improve access to follow-up, to improve service integration and coordination, and to improve awareness about access to service to assist people entering the healthcare system. As you can see by this first slide here, our referrals continue to go up. We had over 1,800 admissions in 2016. To put that in perspective, that's about the same number of admissions to the adult units at Rapid City Regional West. And we operate at a budget about 1/5 of what their budget is. Put that in further perspective, that's about the same number of adult admissions to the Human Services Center in Yankton, South Dakota. We operate at less than 1/40th the budget that the Human Services Center in Yankton, South Dakota does. So we think we're good stewards of the community's money, and we also think that we provide a valuable service to those in crisis. These are unique admissions, meaning how many folks have, it's their first admission to the Crisis Care Center. We usually run about 50% of the folks or a little above have been to the Crisis Care Center sometime in the past 7 years, maybe one admission, it may be 20, it may be more than that. We think that having repeat customers is a good thing because they are not showing up with law enforcement. They know who they are. They're self-referred most of the time. They're not showing up at the emergency department and taking up the time of a higher level of medical need than is warranted. And if you have any questions, just jump in and I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, Randy.
Admits per month running pretty steady anymore, especially in 2016. Used to jump around a lot. We're noticing that we're staying at about 150 to 160 admissions a month. And we also service at least that many clients over the phone and able to take care of crisis situations over the phone. Our average length of stay has continued to fall. Over in 2016, went down quite a bit. We're seeing some shorter admissions. You can be there for up to 24 hours. We're able to extend some of those things. When we had a person that was waiting for family members from out of state, Colorado, to come up and get them, and we found something for them to do during the day and return to us at night, and we're able to have a safe place to stay while awaiting their family members to get up here and assist them with their crisis. That just happened a couple of weeks ago. So that's an example of some of the things that we do. Here's the hodgepodge of things that we do, from assessment to case management to chemical dependency screenings, community referrals, observation, psychiatric services. All of those continue to go up. Observation still continues to be one of the things that we do. We get quite a number of folks when there's an overflow or detox is full, and we will take those folks in to spend the night with us. So they got a safe place and they're not out in cold during the winter and those kinds of things. So we do quite a little of that kind of work.
You answered what observation was. Case management? Do you guys do case management, or you're getting other case management that you're helping with?
We work with Barry's office with Health and Human Services. They have a transitional case manager there who comes over to our facility every morning to find out who's been there, and if they have some needs, they'll meet with them right away. Sometimes that takes some time. Housing things, follow-up. Folks will get discharged from facilities with prescriptions, but no medication and no way of paying for prescriptions. So Barry and those folks help out with those kinds of things also. So we work hand in hand daily on those issues.
Thank you.
You see top 4 referral sources. Self has really gone up. And again, we're pleased that that's gone up. Rapid City Emergency Department has increased over the last, these are 2016 numbers, but in some of the changes that have happened at regional hospitals, some of our referrals from there have gone up over the last 3 or 4 months. And we think that that's a good thing.
How much has that jumped since Rapid City changed their policy?
Well, it about 30 to 40% in the first 3 months after that the announcement was made about the changes to the Behavioral Health Center and the Emergency Department. So that's fairly sizable. And then the last month, for some reason, it dropped back down again, and we don't have any idea why that is. I think the system is starting to get accustomed to, and the folks that utilize the system are getting accustomed to the new way that things run. I think that's part of it. There was a lot of commotion to begin with, and I think some of that has sort of smoothed out.
You think most of them headed your way, or some of them wind up over here to the jail?
We think that the communities work pretty well together. The Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, Regional Hospital has been at the table with that. We've been at the table with that and have diverted, as far as we know, everybody from there. We did have a gentleman over the weekend that we worked with for about 3 or 4 days that we were unable to find out why he was in jail, but he was 18 and a lower functioning guy and got in some domestic dispute and ended up getting discharged from jail, had nowhere to go. So we kept him and worked with Youth and Family Services to provide some things for him during the day, and we provided some place for him to be at night. And now he's, but we don't know whether that happened. But as far as I know, nobody has ended up at the jail. What has happened is that we've worked with the Human Services Center down in Yankton to streamline the referrals from Regional West to HSC, which has kept bed space open at Regional West. The other change that happened is that now the emergency commitment evaluations are done at the emergency department. So some of those folks are not going in and then having their evaluation. They're getting their evaluation first. So that's lowered the number of referrals to Regional West, so there's capacity. So that part of it's worked out. Not all the bugs are worked out, but folks are still getting together and trying to figure out how to make it work as best it can. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, and that's going to be an ongoing situation with us, right? Until Rapid City Regional gets, until we all get our act together again.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be regular meetings going well into the future, and when we start talking about some of the changes that will be happening next year with the crisis center and the detox facility and health and human services, I think that it's good that we have those conversations because we can always get better as a community in providing service to folks who are really struggling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy, I'd just like to say on that same, maybe Kevin knows, isn't there an assessment that gets done with some of the people with law enforcement to determine what level of need they need, along with the regional hospital? I mean, there wasn't a special assessment done up.
Law enforcement is really good at making the determination about what level of care folks need. They've, I think, worked real hard on educating themselves in regard to mental health services. And by the way, May is Mental Health Month. And we're going to be doing some things around town throughout the month to reduce stigma and raise awareness about mental health needs. But some of the leaders in our community have been the Pennington County Sheriff's Office and the Rapid City Police Department. CIT training for their officers. They're in contact with us all the time. What we find at the Crisis Care Center and what I found when I worked for Regional Hospital is these guys do an excellent job of making the right call, and if the service is available, to getting them to that right, correct level of care.
So Randy described CIT training, so the public and the commissioners were all on board of what
Okay.
that means.
Crisis intervention training. It's a 40-hour course that's taught by trainers who've come from the Sheriff's Department and the Rapid City Police Department and have been trained. The last training, I think, took place in Minnesota, and we're able to put on our own trainings here. And other people from the community, including myself and others, come in and talk about the services available, talk about mental health, answer questions, talk about folks who in the community sort of fall through the cracks and what can we do to assist law enforcement, assist families in getting care for their loved ones. So it's a scenario-based training where you have actors come in and the actors portray people with the different types of mental illness, bipolar disorder, mania, and the officers get an opportunity to talk that person down. If it's not going well, it gets stopped and they take another run at it until you get through it. So anybody who goes through that training walks away with a new set of skills and some practice.
Nice.
Would you rate both the police department and the sheriff's department about equal in their ability to
I would. I think that the PD probably, just for sheer numbers, gets more practice out in the community on that. But what we found at the Crisis Care Center, we get a referral from either one of these agencies that we can rest assured that that referral is a good one. And as a matter of fact, they've done a really fine job with some of the things that have been going on with the emergency department at Regional Hospital of screening folks for us at the emergency department and helping with those screenings. So we've really appreciated that. Let's see what else we got. Whoops. This is the rate of suicide in Pennington County from 2008 to 2016. And you can see that drop right away from 27 to 18 in 2011 when the Crisis Care Center opened up. It's gone up a little bit since then, and then in 2015, and we have no idea why, other than we did have a number of folks that were not from Pennington County that suicided in Pennington County, which hadn't happened to a great degree before then. And then we were able to drop down, and like Barry said, we're hoping to take that graph back in the right direction on there, and we think the Crisis Care Center is integral to helping out with that. And that's what I got for graphs and statistics. If you have questions, and if I can't answer them, I'm sure this gentleman to my right can answer them. If he can't answer them, we're in trouble, I guess.
Randy, I'd just like to say you've done an exceptional job at the crisis care. They couldn't have picked a better person to run the crisis care with your personality and your dedication to the people you serve there. I have been there and visited there and with you, and you are a book of knowledge on what you're doing at the crisis care and the people that you serve there. So thank you for what you do there, sir.
Thank you. I've had really good employees too. That helps a lot, and I've had a tremendous amount of support from this community, this commission. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You still have the room reserved, correct? You still have that room reserved?
We're an equal opportunity organization. We don't turn anybody away. We discriminate against no one. Everybody's welcome at our doors in any moment of crisis. So, Commissioner Farabee.
Lloyd, would you like to share with the other thing we were talking about earlier?
No.
That they named a room after George there for the isolation room? Is that what you said?
Some things should be written in stone and some in sand.
The Farabee isolation room. That sounds pretty good. We have one here too for him sometimes. Sorry.
No, Madam Chair,
Senator
if I may, and Commissioners, Alan Solano, CEO of Behavior Management System. I couldn't said it any better, agree with you anymore that Randy is top-notch when it comes to the Crisis Care Center and behavior management systems as a whole. And what Randy had said is it comes down to having really good staff. And so I appreciate the fact that these folks they're working long shifts, and it's not easy work with the volume that they're taking on now. But the Crisis Care Center really was a community project, and I wanted to bring it back to that how much I appreciate the Pennington County, the Commission, the Sheriff's Department, as well as other partners in this with Pennington County Health and Human Services, Police Department, Rapid City Regional Hospital. This would not have happened without the community coming together, seeing an issue that we had in the community and working together to solve it. And I think that you're seeing that continue here in this next year as we're looking at the facility across the street and with the NAU building. And I think that's going to have some pretty profound effect. As we look at getting these programs that are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within a facility, and the leveraging and the advantage that we're going to have with having that expertise, whether that's the qualified mental health professionals, whether that's folks from the detox facility, whether that's folks with the safe solutions. But being able to have folks come into a facility, get the screening, the assessment done, and get them linked to the right services is going to be a profound impact in this community. And the ability to not have to transport and move people as their needs may evolve when they come into a facility. So, for example, if somebody is in detox and they're having some mental health issues, being able to just have the QMHP go down the hallway and assist with that situation is going to be impactful, not only for the client, but for the staff that are working, and again, for the community. And so I just, again, want to thank the commission, thank Pennington County for their leadership that you've shown over these last several years, and appreciate seeing that move forward as we look at the next level that we'll have. And I want to invite you all to May 18th. Barry and Randy had indicated that May is Mental Health Month. May 18th we'll have a a mental health and suicide prevention awareness event down at Main Street Square, starting 5:30. And as we all know, breaking the stigma that's associated to people seeking out and getting help for mental health and ideas of suicide is critical if we want to really see some of these numbers come down as it relates to suicide. So thank you, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Hold on just a sec. Is there any questions for Senator Solano?
I do have a question.
Mr. DeSanto first, please.
I'm curious, Alan, with the suicides, I know it's difficult to tell what's causing a suicide, but is it generally speaking, are more of our suicides because of long-term mental illnesses where people just finally give up? Or is it a sudden life change that causes deep depression and, a loss of a job? What's our main?
Sadly, it's probably all of above. You certainly see those situations where an event or multiple events have happened in somebody's life, and they, quite frankly, if they lose hope. They don't see a hopeful future, and then if you mix into that also use of alcohol or drugs during those situations, that can impact that also. So I think you see it on both ends, the longer term mental illness. But hopefully those folks, we're doing a better job of identifying those individuals and their needs and getting to it. But sadly, when it comes to mental health, we too often, if we correlated it to treating cancer, too often in mental health, we wait until it's stage 4 before we really get in and provide the treatment, and we need to get that earlier. We need to see it earlier. We need to break that stigma so that people know to come in earlier, because the recovery rate is tremendous when we can get to people that are showing early signs of mental illness.
Well, I think the signs for family members and people that work with people that are going from stage 1 to stage 4, I mean, how do you recognize that? So maybe some of the training in different workplaces and different areas, so people start recognizing some of the signs would help too.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I can just build on that a little bit. So Randy talked about the CIT training for law enforcement officers, and that's a very intense training that they go through. But we also, through BMS and other providers in the community, offer mental health first aid training. And so that's the type of thing for the public to start learning, and that gives them a foundation of mental health and mental illness and some of the things that they can do to recognize that at an early stage. And then what do you do? And that's the other question. So what do you do when you see that?
Do you take
in a
that
family
into
member?
like government agencies and different companies and do that training for them?
Yeah, it's open to
Okay.
the public. And so we've just completed, or maybe it was very close to completing, I think Rapid City Police Department had that available for all of their officers. So we just went through and have done a number of trainings for their law enforcement officers. So it's just important. And that's why May as Mental Health Month is an important part, for people to have this kind of conversation and not be afraid of the conversation. And if we can start talking about it and say, what are the resources? Mental health first aid, getting in early for an assessment, we don't think much when somebody has diabetes or has cancer, and we rally behind those folks, and we need to do the same thing for people with mental illness.
Commissioner LaCroix does have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Alan, I remember when we first come up with the Strength of Families Task Force back in 2007 and bringing all the community. You did good in recognizing our community as whole come together for this. It was you guys, the sheriff, it was the police department, it was the faith-based community members, it was everybody that come together. But, I remember we did a community assessment, and one of the highest ones on it was the mental health that we wanted to deal with, and we did some studies on it, and, quite frankly, the Verkervich Foundation and Sandy Deagle took the head right on, and you can't ask for a better organization to help us out in this community as far as a lot of the stuff that we have going on. But, and I remember going to some of our National League of Cities meetings, and Rapid City was held, Pennington County as a higher level, as people were amazed how we work together. George mentioned about the deal with Rapid City Regional Hospital, doing what they did, but look what happened. And also now we got a group coming together, and we're gonna work through this. We are, and mental health kind of hits a home for me because, I've taken a person down to the crisis care center and it's opened up, and I commend what you guys do. I mean, it's an alternative to lock up, lock down, and those methods work better early on. Same way with JDC, why throw someone in there right away and get them into that lifestyle? This is, we get into case management and start out with a little depression, and then work through the rest of the alcohol problems that are related from the mental health. So, but I just wanted to mention it's a community effort that really comes together, and we're doing it again now, so I just wanted to commend you for.
Madam Chair, thank you for saying that, and I couldn't agree more that, the Vakurovich Foundation has been a key part in this community of helping bring folks together and move things along. And I still hear from other parts of the state how impressed they are with what Pennington County and the folks in Rapid City are doing. I always relate it back to like being a family. And, I come from a pretty good-sized family, and I know some of you do. And so, there's going to be times where you have those struggles as a family. But we excel as a community, I think, at being able to come together and sit down and start tackling tough issues and work out the differences. And I think it's pretty normal and probably healthy that we have these differences so that, you get the right heads at the table. And this really comes down to getting people into the right service at the right time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Solano. Barry, do you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, folks. Very good. No motion, right? Okay. Number 13 is a request to purchase tax ID property ID number 6514. The motion would be to sell the tax ID number 6514 for $450 to Mr. Saylor.
Yes. Madam Chairman, did we declare surplus property?
It was done
Okay. My motion is to sell it for $450.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Buskard, second by Commissioner LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Sold.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
You should bang the gavel for that one.
Number 14 is items from the auditor.
That was his area.
Oh, and by the way, thank you, Mr. LaCroy, for helping Mr. DeSantos man Mr. Saylor. That didn't sound quite right. Thank you, Mr. LaCroy, for your work on that. And items from the auditor is A is the 9/15 hearing budget supplement SP 17-006, general fund state's attorney budget. We have the state's attorney, Mr. Fargo, and our auditor, Ms. Pearson, if you'd state your names so they could tell the difference which one is who.
Mark Vargo, State's
I'm kidding.
Attorney to my left. Julie Pearson, Auditor in the middle. Right here in front of you.
There you go.
9:15, this is the supplemental hearing for the budget supplement to the State's Attorney's Office for the addition of 4 FTEs to comply with the passing of Marcy's Law. This is a direct hit to reserves. Basically, this has already been approved in theory by the board when Mr. Vargo came to the board in 2016 saying, explaining the costs of implementing Marcy's Law after the budget was adopted. So it will be a hit to reserves. The line items are attached.
Can I ask, Mr. Vargo, have you already hired the 4 additional FTEs?
We did. We hired them in 2016, and the commission at that time did a supplement for their salaries for the remainder of the year. I think that was $25,000.
Okay.
And then we placed the physical plant, the computers and whatnot that we needed for them in this year's budget. We kind of made do until the end of last year, catch as catch can. But we have in fact expended the money on the desktops, laptops, monitors, et cetera, that they needed, the new phone lines, and have hired, and we have 4 people on board.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the board?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
could you give me the description of the 4 different employees that were added? What are their job duties?
Yes, Commissioner DeSanto. What we have are 3 people who work directly as victim advocates, and that is to ensure that all persons who are victims, that we are able to comply with the dictates of Marcy's Law and keep them informed. And then we have 1 person whose job is principally as a computer specialist to try to streamline all of that and to make it so, when I came to the commission, I essentially said that we would potentially need as many as 6 people. I asked for 4 at the time. I asked for 1 of them to be a computer specialist because I was hoping if that person could do some things that we would be able to hold it to 4. And so far, while they're working awfully hard, I think we're doing that.
Okay. And the computer tech is a position that needs to be full-time? It's not something, he's working all the time, or?
She is working all the
Or she.
time. We actually brought that from in-house because it was somebody who was very familiar with Zerker, and that's the system that you really need to be involved with. And so she is essentially working on a series of projects. Each time it's essentially something the secretaries say, or the victim advocates, this is something that's taking up a lot of our time. And then she tries to work with Zerker to create a protocol so that we can automate it to the extent possible, to populate forms. In other words, to make it as little manpower as possible to do the things that they have to do.
The victim advocates, how many victims are we working with on a monthly basis?
Each on a monthly basis, I couldn't give you that number off the top of my head. I can tell you that we came to the commission and told and gave you the numbers in terms of last year, the overall numbers of victim cases that we have. And that's where I got that 6 number. Because we had 4 people that were working in the department. We were going to more than double that by complying with Marcy's Law. So we were looking at a little bit more than double, and we were trying not to more than double the size of the department.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to get you those exact numbers.
I'd appreciate that. The advocates are staying busy, I take it.
They are quite busy.
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Busker.
Are there any attempts or any underway, or have courts or anybody tried to clarify that law and make it a little less onerous?
We are hoping that something will rise up, but the problem is the only way that it really rises up to the Supreme Court is when someone violates it, and nobody wants to be the one that does that. So in other words, pushing the margins might be good if somebody in Brown County does it. It might help us out. I'm guessing Brown County is not exactly excited about stepping up to that role. I've even talked to some legislators about the possibility of referring it, but the realistic chances are that even if we referred it as a constitutional amendment, that the same spending disparity between the proponents and the opponents would exist, and we'd be stuck with it again.
If you can figure out what a good question, you could, there's such a thing as declaratory judgment. Do they ever go to the Supreme Court, though?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know what the question you'd ask them either.
Anyone else have a question for Mr. Vargo?
I don't really have a question. I guess Ron kind of answered it, because it seems like when it first came out, we kind of stepped it up the notch to get to protect ourselves to the max, where then all of a sudden other people were going a little lower of a standard of the law that your understanding was, Mark. And I guess that's part of what we deal with is everybody reads the law and has a different interpretation of what it really means, and I mean, do you agree with, I mean, when you're saying Brown County, is their interpretation a little bit different, or?
No, I just used them as a for instance. I wasn't suggesting that they've done anything differently. Our state's attorney convention is this week, and we're gonna be talking about some of these issues. So we may find out whether somebody's going to take one of the counties up on a particular interpretation. My hope would be that even if it's a fairly discrete question, that maybe the Supreme Court would give us a little bit more general ruling on what they view the language as being. But for the moment, the only thing that I can do is read it and apply it as I believe that it has been written.
My only other comment would be is I hope to, at some point, that our technology can get to the point to where we can do most of it that way. You know, the initial part, maybe texting, I don't know if that's part of it now, doing texts and emails and automating phone calls and that type of thing.
We absolutely are looking at some of those things, but there has to be that initial human contact, because otherwise how do you figure out where you're sending things?
Sure.
So those are some of the things that computer specialist is working on. We're working with Savin, which unfortunately has not been an ideal system. The difficulty, and I'm sure that those of you who deal with computers on a regular basis understand this, we have Odyssey over at the courthouse, we have Savin at the Office of Victim Services, we have Zerker in our county and for my office, and getting those programs to talk to each other might be able to cut out some of this, but then getting them to talk to each other is a separate offense, and especially Odyssey. Zerker's been outstanding about working with us on lower level things, that's just part of their customer service. On upper level things, we end up paying certain fees, and that's part of my budget. Odyssey, virtually every time we talk to somebody at UJS about changing something through Odyssey, what we're told is it's a $50,000, $100,000, $250,000 hit.
So
That they want to change things.
Zerker and Odyssey are,
They're both case management
Computer-
software systems. Zerker started as a police case management software system.
Okay.
And they modified it for us. We were the beta version. And we bought that about 4 years ago and installed it about 2.5, 3 years ago. And it's been very useful for us. It has definitely stepped up our ability to integrate with the sheriff, the police department, the highway patrol, all of whom use it. Box Elder Police Department does as well.
thank you.
So ideally, we like Zerker, we think it's working well. Odyssey has been the one that's been harder for the other programs to integrate with. And Savin simply wasn't written for this kind of volume and for these types of cases. So even though we have Savin, the Attorney General's office is paying for an update to Savin, but that's not there yet.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, as much as I
Mr.
hate to
Busker.
do this, this is what the people voted for, and this is what they want. So I make a motion that we give the state's attorney their budget supplement.
Of 225,000?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. LaCroy. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no from Commissioner Farabee. Next, the budget supplement, SP 17-007, County Fire Fund Operating Budget.
This is a request for a budget supplement to the county fire fund from revenue supported from the Homeland Security Grant. And this is for a self-contained breathing apparatus trailer refill unit. Already approved by the board. This is just supporting the funding source.
Do we have a motion?
The amount is $35,000. Information is attached.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by Mr. LaCroy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Busker. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Oh, I had somebody from the public that wanted.
Oh,
Oh.
can you have a bigger flag?
You need to put a sign right there.
Need to put a little beeper there.
Madam Chairman, Dan Richer. I'd just like to ask the auditor where we're at for reserves where our percentage is at right now.
Okay, this is a budget supplement county fire operating budget. Do they, Miss Julie, do they have that already in their budget from last year or this year?
No, it's a revenue supported, so it would not have an effect on their reserve balance. County Fire is a separate fund, and at this time, it's above the projected 18% goal.
Okay, thank you. That answer your question, Mr. Richard? Thank you. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no with Commissioner Farabee. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Next is 14C, special request for retail on-sale malt, beverage, and wine license, Rapid City Chamber of Commerce.
This is for an event scheduled at the Fort Hayes Chuckwagon Supper and Show Building at 2255 Fort Hayes Road for the May Mixer for the Chamber. The applicable fees have been set and
Okay, is there a
paid.
motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Buschrood, second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Turn my page. Stuck. 14D, Miss Julie.
It's a public hearing for a special retail on-off sale malt beverage and wine license for a scheduled event named this Summer of Love.
How can you vote against this?
How can you? On July 21st by the Performing Arts.
Summer of Love event. Motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy, second by Buschrood. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Miss Julie.
Thank you.
Number 15 is items from Sheriff Tome.
Good morning again, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff. You have the memo in front of you that was prepared, and it's just for the purchase of, it's called an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. If you recall, this came out of a tragic incident about 2 years ago when Gabby Fisher was killed up at Pactola. And we spent days diving, searching for her body, and then we called on Burleigh County, Bismarck, North Dakota, and they brought this device down, and with hours, we were able to recover the body. And so it's unfortunately used for body recovery. It's also used for retrieval of evidence. You could have stolen property thrown in a lake. You could have a gun used in a crime, those sorts of things. What it does is it allows us to not put a diver in the water and put a diver at risk. You can put equipment in the water, and you can search much quicker, much more efficiently. And we've used it since then. We borrowed it one other time and used it to recover a drowning victim at Pactola. And the funding's laid out in here. It's $50,000 through a Homeland Security grant.
Thank you.
And then about a little over $36,000 was raised by friends and family of Gabby Fisher in the Walleye Group here in town. And so it's a combination of grant money and private money to purchase it.
Nice. Do we have any questions or a motion?
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Okay. Commissioner DeSanto.
What's the total cost of the
Yeah,
unit?
Yeah, the total we have raised is a little over $86,000. We hope when we put it out to bid, we can come a little bit under that.
Under that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Buschrood, please.
Yeah, is this like a sonar, or, I mean, is that, I've seen where they put them behind a boat and side scan sonar?
But what it is, it's a tethered unit, so it's tethered. It's like a little submarine, if you will, that has a propeller on it, has sonar on it, has a light on it, has a camera on it. It's like in the case of drowning victims, you can go down and you can actually see the victim, there's a clamp on it, you can clamp onto the clothing or something, and then pull the victim up to the surface.
Great idea, but what I've heard is the last time we were at a Pactola, they couldn't see their hand in front of their face, so I'm not sure this does anything.
Yeah, well, we've successfully used it twice at Pactola, and you're right, I mean, diving conditions, it's not like diving in the Bahamas, you don't see very far, and if you get down there and steer up the silt, it's literally zero visibility, but with the sonar, you can narrow the search
As
down.
long as that's, because I thought that was a good idea, but.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the sonar narrows it down, then you can get up close with the camera and the light, and then you can actually see the item or victim and retrieve it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
and the clarity of Pactola changes. Sometimes it's very clear, other times when the silt's turning, it's murky and you can't see a thing.
That's correct,
So,
yep.
There are times when the camera would work perfectly.
Can I say just one thing?
Sure.
Dustin Willett, Pennington County Emergency Manager, just to address that concern from Commissioner Buskerud and Commissioner DeSanto. The unit that we're looking at purchasing actually has onboard sonar that paints a sonar picture for the operator. So if the visibility is such that an optical camera is not providing the operator an image, you actually get a real-time image. It basically, the unit has a sonar on board that provides a sonar image instead of an optical image.
Commissioner DeSanto?
There was some talk when we spoke about this before about being able to rent it out to other agencies, Nebraska, so forth. What would what type of revenue would we receive from renting a unit like this out?
You know, we haven't had that discussion as to what we would charge if we rent it out. Typically, what we've done with all of our equipment, when it's regional here in South Dakota, we just share it from one agency to the next.
Okay.
And like in this case, if Game Fish and Parks needed it in another county, I mean, they're going to assist us with the training. They already assist us with a lot of training on our water rescue team and boat safety, those sorts of things. Their contribution would be training and then upkeep as we go forward, and then basically some in-kind contribution. So we generally don't bill other agencies in our region if we went out of state. It's a discussion we'd have to have.
So Department of Fish and Game will be helping for upkeep as far as
Yeah,
cost?
they've agreed to help with training, and like I say, as we go forward, if there's some costs, we could draw on them to assist with those costs.
Okay. As with, like I spoke to you before, with our patrol boat that we've put up there on Pactola, I firmly believe that since Department of Fish and Game and the U.S. Forest Service are benefiting from the fees that are charged up there, that they should take part in making sure that they're paying for these resources that we're providing them.
Yeah, and Forest Service frankly hasn't. What Game Fish and Parks did for us was they provided the instructors for several days of training for our people that operate the boat and again for our water rescue team. So they've provided instructors to help with the training, so they've contributed, I guess, in kind that way.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I've got a
Commissioner Fairby?
question or two. How much did Burley County charge us for using their unit?
Nothing.
Any reason that we,
Brian, correct. We paid for their food and their travel costs and their hotel while they were here, so.
and they brought it down, or we went and got it?
No, they brought it down. Because they were trained to operate it, we weren't.
Is there any reason that this shouldn't be a unit, if the state of South Dakota needs one, shouldn't it be purchased by the state of South Dakota and housed in Pier? And probably with Game Fish and Parks.
And that's a decision for Game Fish and Parks, I guess, if they feel like they have a need for an additional unit to cover another geographic area of the state.
Madam Chair, I think we should hold off on this and discuss the issue with Game Fish and Parks. Lakes management belongs to them statewide.
I'm going to disagree. I think people in our community raised $36,500 because they also thought it was a need for our community and our sheriff's department and the people around here. And then the Homeland Security helped that. But they almost matched that funding. So I would disagree, Commissioner Fairby, and I have been with the police department and the city police department and the sheriff's department, and what they do best is they coincide with the surrounding areas and work very well with them. So what he's saying is, we do this all the time, and this is a piece of machinery which gives closure to people of drowned victims. So I think it's a positive sharing thing for Pennington County, and if it ends up going to Pier or somewhere else, good for us. But right here in Pennington County, we're good to go by the community that support this and Homeland Security. So I think it's a positive for us.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Buster.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this. I think it's a great idea, but it fits right in with what I've said before, is we got to start charging for search and rescue.
Right.
It costs a lot of money.
So do we have a
And
motion?
obviously, these people have paid their fair share for that, probably, but in other cases, it's time we take a look at that, and if nothing else, get it from, license from the state or something.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Different story.
Is that a motion, Mr. Buskerud?
My motion is to approve it, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by LaCroy. Any other discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, the memo says that the money was raised across the state. Contributions from other individuals in our community and across the state. Now,
Which we appreciate, sir.
what about the 50,000 Homeland Security grant? How was that applied for? Under what auspices?
Just what you see here. I mean, we have a process, the state breaks us down into region, then each region decides its priorities, and then there's a grant application process that we go through.
So, Madam Chair, so I get this straight, Homeland Security is in the business of recovering bodies in a timely fashion? No, we spend and we spend and we spend. I know this is only chicken feed in comparison to the $1 trillion budget that Congress is about to pass. But one of these days, we got to quit spending. Thank you.
So Commissioner Fairby, are you saying that this isn't a good thing for Pennington County to have this to help our officers in the surrounding area?
What I'm saying, Madam Chair, is this is just one more toy that I don't think we absolutely need, and if we need it in the state of South Dakota, then game fish and parks ought to be in the forefront of this, and ought to be stationed in pier.
Thank you, Commissioner Fairby. Any other discussion? We have a motion by Buskerud, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
4 with yes, and 1 from Commissioner Fairby, no. Motion carries. Number 16 is items from emergency management.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission, Dustin Willett, Pennington County Emergency Management. With me is Deputy Director Alexa White. This is more of just an informational presentation for you. We'll hopefully keep it brief. We partnered last year or with this year's budget with the Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, the Rapid City Fire Department, and Pennington County Emergency Management to purchase a service, a software suite. Basically, it's a cloud-based service called Beverage. What this allows us to do is threefold. The most important thing that it probably brings to the table is the ability to enhance our capability of warning the public in that what we haven't had in our warning suite in the past is an ability to call people's telephones or cell phones in a given area. This adds that. A lot of people are familiar with the term reverse 911. That's actually a trademarked phrase from a particular vendor that is not Everbridge, so we try not to use that too much, but everybody understands what that means. So this is part of that effort. The second thing it does is we have an employee notification system that we've typically worked through Dispatch and our Zerker software that's maintained by IT, and it's a laborious process. The way that system was set up, we were kind of shoving a round peg through a square hole to make that work, and it was very time-consuming for IT staff, and they were looking for a solution to have a better employee notification system on the county side. What this system does is allow each individual employee to log on to a portal and maintain their own communication or their own devices for communication. So if their cell phone changes or their email changes or whatever they want to do, they're in control with how they get some of those some of those notifications. And then the third thing it does is it brings all of our warning suites, everything that we use to warn the public, it brings it into one single interface that's available either at a hard station in the Emergency Operations Center or access via cloud anywhere anybody that's authorized to use the system has internet access. So very robust, very capable system. We started rolling it out to the public at this year's home show, and it started to get in some online opt-in enrollments. But basically we wanted to bring it before the commission and let you guys know that we were going to be making some significant pushes in the community, some public service announcements and some advertising, and wanted you to be on the tip of that spear so that if any constituents asked you questions, you at least have an awareness of what we were doing. So.
Thank you, Mr. Dustin. Ms. Alexa, do you have anything to share?
I just have this card. I was going to give you that.
My only question, Dustin, is
Commissioner Busker.
we're going to have to,
Thank you, Alexa.
the public is going to have to opt into this, I take it.
Yes and no. So what we did is any publicly available data, so all of the white page data, all the yellow page data, all the numbers that are out there and published are automatically enrolled into the system. So we literally have tens of thousands of contacts in there already. The opt-in allows individual residents to configure that for themselves. Or if they have an elderly parent that maybe lives in Rapid and they live outside of town, they can configure it so they get those alerts as well. So any publicly available data that we put in there, and then that is augmented by individuals that sign up.
And cell phones. you'd
Cell
have to-
phones.
You have to get, opt in, basically.
Yep.
And landlines.
A lot of that we get through the white and yellow page data.
Any other
Madam Chair.
questions? Commissioner DeSanto.
We've already paid for this system, I take it,
For this year, yes.
for this year?
Yep.
What's the ongoing cost of the system?
$18,000 a year annually. And Commissioner Busker, the cell phones, we reach primarily through the wireless emergency alerts. So we have the capability of basically hitting any enabled cell phone within range of a given cell phone tower in an emergency.
So you can get that without me calling you and telling you that I
Yep.
want in it.
If I annoy you too much, you can turn it off, but I can push that to you without you doing anything.
I annoy you. Good word. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for the presentation today. Next, we're on to items from equalization. State your name, sir.
Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. You have 3 requests for abatement in front of you. They come from my office. I will give you a rundown of the explanation for each of them. The first one is Vanneman. This is a property that was annexed into the city limits of New Underwood as a rural service district, but the tax levy that was applied to the property for the last several years was the full levy, including the city levy of New Underwood. The city brought it to my attention. It should be a rural service district levy, which is essentially the difference in the taxes that go to the city. The Franzen Abatement is a property where the property owner applied for and qualified for an elderly assessment freeze. This comes after the assessment, a mistake on the part of the county. The frozen value was not placed on the property. The discounted assessment didn't happen. The property owner wouldn't have had notice of that, just assumes that it would happen, and it didn't. And it was noticed, I think, by the treasurer's office when the tax bill was printed. The Adamson property was purchased in 2004 by Miss Adamson. Excuse me. She applied for and qualified for an owner-occupied classification. And that owner-occupied classification can change when there is a transfer of ownership on the property. There was a deed recorded on this property from a previous owner to the person that Miss Adamson bought the property from. Excuse me. It wasn't a sale of the property. It wasn't a transfer of ownership. It was a deed that was recorded probably to clear up a title problem somebody saw. To us, it looked like a transfer of ownership. When you actually look at the deed and read what happens, it's not. But the process we have, it tripped that process and the owner-occupied classification was lost.
Thank you. Is the board's wish to do them all 3 at once, or would you like to do them separately?
All at once?
No, separately.
Separately, I've got a
Okay,
question on.
let's do separately. So the first one is Watkin J. Vandenham, City of New Underwood. Do we have a motion?
Move for approval.
No.
Moved by LaCroy. Is there a
Second.
second? Second by Busker. Discussion.
What's a rural service district?
Rural Service District is a property that is within the boundaries of the city limits, but does not receive the city levy.
Commissioner Fairby?
What statutes, what's chapter in codified law covers rural service districts?
I don't know. When we talked over the phone yesterday, you asked that. I didn't look. That's a question for the city. The city it gives my office a resolution whenever they annex a property, rural service or not, or de-annex. What statutes that follow, I don't know.
I'd like to ask Commissioner Musgrove, you've been around here for a long, long time. Have you ever heard that phrase?
I did about a month ago. That's the first time I heard it. Same deal.
Oh, okay, well.
Otherwise, no, I have not.
so
But it
thank-
doesn't affect us, it affects the city.
It's the taxes that go to the city. of New
Remember, there
Underwood.
was one last meeting or so from Rapid City.
Rural service districts are common. Most towns have something, for some reason, they annex a property and it's rural service, usually, maybe always, for a temporary period of time until city services reach it or whatever. But many cities I've seen this.
And the rest of my questioning is, I asked yesterday, and so I'll ask again. Is this individual paying the same county taxes that I'm paying? I'm talking about library, talking about unorganized road, I'm talking about fire admin. Those are the three taxes that I pay. Is this person going to pay those taxes? Or
Mr.
is he-
Fairby, this is abatement application, is that?
I'd like to answer that question, though, because he did ask yesterday, and as I answered yesterday, I don't know, because that's a levy question, and I certainly don't know the difference in the levy from Hill City to where you're at to New Underwood. But late last night, when I'm laying in bed working, thinking about this a little bit more, it occurred to me that this property's in the city limits of New Underwood, so no, it probably does not have those levies because it's within the city limits of New Underwood.
So, Madam Chair, if I might, so he's not going to pay city tax, and the three things I just mentioned are what the Hill City people don't pay because they pay city tax. Now, me being rural, I pay those three. So is this guy going to get the best of both worlds? No tax? That's the issue. Thank you. I got no more questions.
So do you want to answer any of what that?
Property's located within the city limits of New Underwood.
So he's getting the best of both worlds. No
They're paying
tax for.
city tax.
Have been, and that's the abatement to take off that city levy.
Okay, thank you. We do have a motion by LaCroy, second by Buschard. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
So
DeSanto.
I do want to clarify, and maybe we need to continue this or something, but to get more information, but so if we remove this city tax, and as George said, he's paying no county tax, then we've just basically, he's not paying any tax at all.
No, he's paying
No.
county property tax.
He is paying county property tax.
Absolutely.
But he's not paying any of the service taxes.
The same taxes that anybody else in New Underwood pays, the county levy included.
Okay.
Except the abatement would be for the city levy.
And for clarification, if I'm understanding correctly, a rural service district is basically a piece of property that may be on an undeveloped road, and city services haven't reached that piece of property yet, even though it's within the city limits.
And for whatever reason, the city and the property owner agree to annex that property. Usually I see it with the understanding that it will be a fully taxed property when sewer and water or roads or something else reaches it. Maybe there is a reason why the city wants to annex it for the future.
Okay.
But this was brought forward from the city that brought it to our attention, right?
Yes.
I mean, so it's not like, it's kind of an unusual deal that they made the agreement, otherwise they would want the money for their services.
Absolutely. There was a resolution that the city of New Underwood did to annex the property as a rural service district. We have it taxed at the full levy incorrectly.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
4 yes, 1 no with Commissioner Fairby. Next is Alvin V. Franzen Trust.
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy. Is there a second? Second by Buschard. Any discussion?
I do have
Commissioner Fairby?
a question. I didn't get a chance to ask the treasurer how the mistake occurred. But, She admitted a mistake. Anyway, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Next is Edgar L. Adamson.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Buschard,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? Commissioner Farabee?
This problem's coming back at us again. Are we gonna find a fix for looking at deeds? We just automatically look at them as a transfer. And we've had several situations where somebody's been added to or taken off of a piece of property. The person that's the owner occupied is still there. We're gonna fix that problem? This is another case of, obviously, where the name's changed on the deed. But one or more of the owners is still there. So that should continue on owner occupied. Is there any way we can fix that problem? Thank you.
This is how we fix the problem.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Shannon. C is a resolution of supports clarification of the definition of real property for ad valorem taxation purposes in SDCL 10-4-2 by the South Dakota Legislature.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Holly has handed me some comments from Mark Rutherford. She said that he wasn't going to be here at the meeting, but he had dropped these comments, these written comments off this morning, and I'll just hand you a copy of those.
I would like to make a motion to postpone this for 2 weeks so we can look at them.
Okay. It's been a motion to continue. And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. You've been continued, Shannon.
I've been continued?
Yep. The issue's
Chair?
been, yes, sir.
I also would like to point out that I don't think that this resolution addresses what we specifically wanted addressed.
Okay.
It doesn't talk about determining what attachment is and what it isn't. It doesn't talk about if they've registered it as a vehicle, are they also going to get taxed as a real property? Those are the questions that I thought that we had asked for the resolution to clarify, and I'm not seeing that in here. Maybe I'm
Board-
missing something.
Board, maybe we could do one thing is write your concerns down and then give them to Holly.
Okay.
So we all have the same understanding.
Gotcha.
Busker's going to have something different than DeSanto, and George is going to have something different. So as soon as possible, if we could get those questions to Holly,
Okay.
then she can work with Jay and Shannon on some of the things that we have concerns with.
I think that's probably a very good idea.
Okay?
Because then I think the original draft is a good guideline, and I think
Yes.
everybody's little bit of input will help.
I agree. It's a good start to where we're going, and we thank you guys for moving that where it is today. And then, again, let's not just hash it out here and start making changes right here. If we can get most of it done through questions and things that we have concerns with before we come up here, that's a lot easier for the staff and for actually commissioners that are reading this. So, thank you, Shannon. So we'll go ahead and move on.
I didn't do anything. Thank you.
And Jay and Holly for your hard work.
Might I ask who prepared this one?
Jay, Holly, and Shannon tried to figure out our concerns and put it on paper.
That's true. Holly wrote it and Jay and I reviewed it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Holly, for your time.
This did come from the Board of Equalizations, because I think that came through all our discussion when it all come up afterwards, if this is what we wanted to do. So it was not like somebody directed them, it came from the group, so.
She tried to get from our concerns on a piece of paper, which, whoo, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, I was just curious who wrote it.
Okay, we're on 18A, items from Highway. Asphalt Concrete Overlay Project South Valley Drive, award recommendation.
Good morning, Commission. Tom Wilsey, County Highway Department. First item is asphalt overlay project that we let back in February 9th of 17. Original low bid was $126,879.03. This was delayed because of an annexation of the part of South Valley Drive. Due to the city's annexation, size of the project was reduced. And after making adjustments to quantities to complete the project, we figure that our portion is $98,186.30.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy, is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second for discussion? Discussion, please?
I've got a substitute motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Farabee.
Pennington County delays any further work on South Valley Drive until the city decides whether or not they want that entire stretch of road.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second on South Valley Drive to delay this project. Discussion?
I kind of struggle with that one because I've seen the road deteriorating on the sides, and this could get dragged out for a long period of time.
May I answer this partial? I had a conversation with the city engineer yesterday. He informs me the city is not intending to annex that at all. Not until the whole donut gets annexed. Then they'll take the road with that.
And by the way, they de-annexed the sod farm in that area, so they created a bigger donut hole.
Yeah.
So the future for this area is we can finish it, or by the end, they might have that area de-annexed and we might have more. So unfortunately, I can't remember the last time I ever seen anything de-annexed, but they opened up a whole can of worms in South Valley area on that sod farm with not all the,
What was the purpose of that, do you know? I mean, I don't,
they figured it was ag, is what they said.
Why didn't they create a, what was it called?
That party.
What did we just do?
A rural service district.
Rural service. Why didn't they do that?
district.
Bottom line is, guys, we had a portion out there that had big, huge dips and things in it. We had to do it because it was a safety factor. So if this road has safety factors on it and somebody gets hurt, it's a county road, and it's well needing to be done.
I've driven it over and over again since we started discussing this, and I drive it when we weren't discussing this, and frankly, I don't, we've got a lot of projects that are, in my opinion, much more necessary to address immediately than this particular project. I feel that that the road, like I said, I've driven it many times, and it's in a lot better shape than many of the roads that we have around here. I wasn't worried about tearing up my car or losing the suspension or driving off the road because of it. It's not crumbling off the edges in many places that I could see, other than maybe right when you're crossing the creek.
My question would be, Commissioner DeSanto, did you go out, is that your district? You went out and talked to the people on that road? Because we're having people come in on the backside saying, okay, Commissioner said this, but we're saying we've been waiting for this long. How long has this road not been refinished? And have you checked with the neighbors out there if that's their wish?
No, I have not.
Okay.
May I make a comment here?
Yes, sir.
We go out and analyze all of our asphalt roads, do them at least once every 3 years. We look at the cracking, we look at the severity of the cracking, how often the cracks are in there, what kinds of cracking. We look at the rutting, we look at the drainage on the road, we look at polishing of the aggregates and everything on this. And then from that, we determine what maintenance we have to do on the road and when. A lot of it can be deferred. This one is reaching the point where if we don't do something, we're gonna have problems. An asphalt road deteriorates in kind of a parabolic curve. We're starting down this curve on this road. That's why we think we should overlay it. Get it while it's still not terrible. It's a lot cheaper that way. This way, we can just put a 2-inch overlay and we're done. We don't have to go in and mill it. We don't have to go in and fill the ruts and everything else. We can save money by doing it now,
What's the cost if we let it go? Is it double?
easily.
We've seen that on the city roads, unfortunately, you guys, where we just said it wasn't bad enough, and then they let them go, and now you have a lot of deteriorated roads that are gonna cost taxpayers twice the amount.
Easily. The
Than what it is
industry,
now.
basically, you try to, rating number above 75 is where you try to keep your roads. That's where you're not bouncing all over the place when you're driving through it. We're down to 80 on this one now. We're starting downhill. We want to catch it before because it's cheaper.
Commissioner Fairby?
I got a number of questions, obviously. How much does it take, how much would it cost us to take the asphalt up, and make that gravel road again?
I'm not sure.
How many rural residents does that road service?
It doesn't, it serves the ones in the donut hole.
How many rural, 24 rural residents?
I don't know how many are in there.
And how many hundreds of Rapid Cityans?
I can tell you what the ADT is on our section. That's about all I can tell you.
But you don't know whether it's
I don't know
rural?
I don't know
Okay.
which ones are rural and which ones are city.
And those folks are paying unorganized road, and they should have a gravel road like I do, which I have no problem with, by the way. But when does the city engineer decide what the city's gonna do? You said this, you talked to the city engineer. They have a mayor and a city council.
He got this from them, from the rest, from the council members and such.
But we should be talking to them. Anyway, now, that's also a section line, as I understand it.
Mhm.
Previously, until we patched it up here, was that last year we patched it or a year before we patched it?
Year and a half ago.
For about, what, 25, 30,000, we patched it up?
It was over 50,000 split between us and the city.
Okay. so
25 of ours, 25 of theirs.
So since that's a section line, it was never really ever a county road, is my understanding. Just let the city go ahead and fix it for their people. That's public property. It's not county property or city property, it's public property. Just go ahead and if the city residents want a good road to get from point A to a shortcut, don't let them pay for it. The country people are gonna drive on gravel like I do. I got no problem with that.
Okay, Commissioner
you.
Fairby. Any other discussion? I'm gonna have to disagree. They're all public roads. And, to me, we're starting to micromanage when Tom should tell us when to do roads or not. If we want to do that, then let's just make our own list and then make him follow it. Because we keep delaying or telling people, the guy that does this every day, that we don't need it, it's not worth the money, or if it's somebody else's road, have them take care of it.
A few years ago, there was a dead end there.
Commissioner Fairby, I'm speaking.
There was a
Thank
dead
you.
end.
Commissioner Fairby? I understand where you're going, but we have a highway department that takes care of our roads, and they're telling us based on priority. This isn't made-up stuff, and we keep coming up and saying, okay, it doesn't need to be done.
Madam Chair.
My bottom line is, if that's where we want to go, then maybe we should have some of this discussion before we come up to the dais. And then we also know that we can get a hold of those constituents and those people that we are going to affect ahead of time by saying, we don't need it. And if that's your district, that would be very helpful as well. Maybe to have public meetings before, or even contact some of the people, so they're the ones that are paying those taxes on those roads as well. So you have two sources. You have a highway department guy to talk to, and the people being affected in the area. So,
Madam Chair.
go ahead, Commissioner DeSanto.
One of the reasons that I didn't come to address this prior to the meeting or ask questions was because I thought that at our last meeting, we voted no, that we weren't gonna overlay the project this year. That's what I thought at our last meeting, this came before us and we said, we're not doing it.
Is that correct?
Last meeting, we never even discussed this. 2 meetings ago, we delayed it. That was it.
We delayed it.
Why did we delay it?
Because we were waiting to find out about the city and whether they were going to annex that road.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chair, how long is it until the next city-county meeting that you and I attended?
Friday.
Friday.
It's this coming Friday?
There's one Friday.
No, the one Friday is the big four, that's not.
No, we have
Yes,
one Friday.
there is a city-county meeting this Friday.
At 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. I would ask that we put this off. I will attend that meeting on Friday, And I'm going to specifically ask the city about getting annexation on this road so that we can have, so we can eliminate this donut hole problem. It's obviously going to be a continued problem. We need to make some negotiations and figure out how to address it.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner DeSanto, but this commission, not this commission, a commission before had the chance to annex it in, never did. We're a different commission, I understand. But what just happened is some of that land in that donut hole was de-annexed by the city.
Right.
Now, you're going to go and ask them now if they would like to annex in the donut hole that they just de-annexed part of it.
Part of it, but that's, 500 yards away, the sod farm. It's not part of South Valley Road.
It's part of the donut hole now that was created before, which added a bigger donut hole.
But there's a specific reason that they got rid of just that sod farm.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't trying to avoid taking over a road, or they got rid of the sod farm because they saw that as agriculture. Am I off my rocker, Dad?
I'm not going there.
You're looking at me like I'm off my rocker.
Well, because I haven't seen anything de-annexed that we're trying to annex in with them. They did the opposite of what we were thinking. That was the bottom line, I guess, from this board, or what I was thinking, because we had a donut hole, we were trying to close it. What they just did is open it up bigger, and now we're gonna go, do you see what I'm saying? Now we're gonna go back and ask for them we'd like to close that donut hole now.
Madam Chairman, I have
So,
a question.
Commissioner Bushko.
Obviously, this was bid on, how long is that bid good for?
That's the problem, we're pushing our limit. I talked to the contractor that's wanting to do it, he says, I need to know now whether we're gonna do it or not. Whether he'll honor the bid. They only have to honor it for 30 days.
And we're past that time now?
We're at 60.
Whoa.
They said they would honor it.
Commissioner LaCroix, do you have a question?
I don't agree on delaying it and checking with the city. I mean, you could go down to the city, to the mayor's office and talk to them at any time where the department says a commissioner has anybody waiting for Friday. It is just create more talk in the meeting that probably other things discussed. I think what's gonna happen, just from the experience that I've had with it, as Deb's talking with the donut hole, I don't care about that other property over there, but it's not gonna happen. It's just not. It's been devoted twice. So to say the city's gonna come in and annex in and take over this road, they just did Big Sky. Come on. Let's get real. We're gonna have to get this done.
No, they just annexed a couple hundred yards.
Hold on, Mr. DeSanto.
If we wait, the road's gonna get worse,
Just your passion.
and we're gonna lose the bid. I mean, best case scenario, we're gonna have to come in and do it next year, rebid it out, or 2 years from now, because I really don't foresee them annexing in. I've been in the discussions with the future land use, and I've seen how this, like we said, it's been devoted twice for annexation, so really, it's not gonna, I think we're just kicking the can down the road.
Can you, Ms. Kara, can you tell me what the substitute
We're on the
motion?
substitute motion from Farabee to delay work until they find out if the city is gonna do with the annexation.
Okay.
That was.
Commissioner
where we
Farabee,
stopped. We
did
had
you
a
have?
First and a second.
Sorry, Ms. Kara.
Two issues. Number one, if we wait long enough, we'll have another asphalt plant, and asphalt might go down a little bit. Being a little facetious, of course, but if we took some heat. Anyway, second issue is I resent taking my unorganized road tax and putting it on a road.
Mr. Farabee,
That
we are
services-
talking, nope, we're talking South Valley. South Valley.
Do
South
I
Valley.
have the floor or not?
If you're talking about South Valley, we are talking about South Valley right now, and she had read the motion. Are you speaking on the motion, sir?
I'm speaking on the motion. The money, the money for that road is going to come from the county highway budget. Part of that, a big part of that highway budget is unorganized road tax, my tax. I resent putting my money on a road to service city folks.
Thank you. We do have a motion on the floor. Let's have a roll call. And this is for the,
To delay it.
to delay it. Thank you.
Buskerud?
No.
No, I don't have my thing. Hold on. Sorry.
You're okay.
DeSanto?
Aye.
Farabee?
Yes.
LaCroy?
No.
Hadcock?
No, motion fails. We're back to the original motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
We have 2 noes and 3 ayes. Motion carries. Thank you for the discussion. Item B is information on bridges near the intersection of Dias and Country Road. Tom, please.
This is some information that was requested about the 2 structures near the intersection. The one to the north on Dias Avenue is a pre-stressed double T bridge that can handle legal loads, 32-foot wide. There are no issues for the loadings. I assume you're talking about the asphalt trucks, so there are no issues for that loading. Structure east of the intersection on Country Road is a timber structure built in 1950. The current rating for this structure is 22 and 37 tons. This is about 91% of the legal load.
Tom, did you take any pictures of the bridges that
I
we
did
could show?
not, no, not of this.
Okay.
All I did was include the bridge reports in the packet for you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, I have a question. When you say 91% of the legal load,
That's correct. Legal loads are considered 24 and 40 tons. If you're above that, you don't have to post a structure.
so is this one posted now?
This one is posted at 2237.
Is that gonna mean anything to them?
I'm not sure. This is a short structure. If I remember correctly, let me look real quick.
That's on Country Road, and I think the weight limit on Country Road.
This is the Country Road,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's,
It's a 47-foot structure, 2 spans. I believe this has a 27-foot roadway width between the railing.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
to address Ron's question, according to the asphalt plant people, they're not planning on using Country Road at all. So this.
no. The reason I'd asked, because it was brought up during the meeting twice from 2 different residents out there about the bridge condition. So
I see.
That's why I thought I'd ask it, so he could just
I didn't
address
think you
it.
were gonna use that either.
That's all it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let him talk.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Mr. LaCroy, Commissioner DeSanto, you have the floor.
I just said thanks for clarifying that. I didn't know why we were talking about it. But now I do
Commissioner
remember
LaCroy.
the 2 people saying, oh, that bridge is, okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
This bridge will be inspected this following year, so just a piece of information.
Any other questions? Thank you for that information, Tom, today.
Thanks.
Number 19 is do we want a break before Board of Adjustment, or would like to move forward?
About 5 minutes.
5-minute break. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by, motion by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. 5-minute break, please.
Yeah, don't say that.
I ain't saying that.
Oh, yeah.
About 10 years, I might be wearing.
So what'd you say, Friday's George and?
Isn't done yet, isn't decided.
DeSanto's gonna run it. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's easier
They have a
to
lot
move
of
that
stuff in
over
their
here,
district there.
the panel.
Come on, Georgie. Are we ready? Need a motion to go into the Board of Adjustment?
So moved.
Moved by DeSanto, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. PJ, you're up.
Trying to get used to this new side here, hold on.
PJ Conover, Director of Planning Department. Item A under the Board of Adjustment is variance 1708, which is a request to reduce the minimum required section line setback on the south property line from 25 feet to 0 feet, and to also reduce the minimum required side yard setback from the east property line from 25 feet to 10 feet in the general agriculture district for the purposes of putting up a 42 by 48 shed. The applicant are Ronald and Deborah Smith, and one of the applicants is in the audience today if you have any questions. The size of the property is 3.72 acres, and a large portion of the property is hilly and slopey. As the property exists today, it's 3.72 acres. Again, it's zoned general agriculture with the future land use of planned unit development sensitive. Access is off of 385 to the north. Access is taken off through Lawrence County into Pennington County. There's no special flood hazard area on the property. The north property line, again, the picture you're looking at with the red and yellow lines, this is from Rapid Map, and those are not accurate survey lines. The north property line is the Pennington County northern border. The southern property line of the applicant's property is a section line which has the 33 feet on each side plus an additional 25-foot setback. On the property, there's an on-site wastewater treatment system with a current permit. There's a single-family residence built in 2008, and additions and an upgrade to a master bedroom, both in 2017. This request was routed through the interdepartmental review and no items of concern came back. With the variance, the Board of Adjustment needs to consider 4 items that they would be met. Item A, the specific circumstances or conditions such as exceptional narrowness, topography, or siting exist. Through a site visit, staff has observed that a significant portion of the western side of the property is significantly steep and appears to be unbuildable. The eastern side is relatively flat, but again, there is a section line to the southern side which also takes up 58 feet, and he's only asking to go from 25 to 0, but keep the 33 feet of the section line in place. Item B, that the variance does not grant a use which is otherwise excluded from the particular district. The setback variance would not grant a use which is excluded in a general agriculture district. Item C, that due to the specific circumstances or existing conditions, strict application of the zoning ordinance would be an unwarranted hardship. Strict application of the zoning ordinance would require the landowner to meet the setbacks of the section line, again, which is 58 feet in a general and the setback in a general agriculture district. The portion of the property where the shed is proposed appears to be the most buildable area on the property. Item D, that granting a variance is not contrary to public interest. Granting this variance does not appear to be contrary. We've received no phone calls or letters of opposition. Before I go on, what you're looking at right now on the screen is the applicant's drawing of his property, where the hills are, where his septic tank is, and drain field, where the proposed shed is on the east side. He did sign and date that. Topographical constraints and the section line appears to limit the amount of buildable space on the property. There does not appear to be evidence to warrant a variance along the entire length of either property line. It appears that minimizing the request to be just for the portions of the shed that encroaches into the setbacks may be an alternative. Therefore, if the Board of Adjustment approves variance VA 1708, staff would recommend 2 conditions be included.
Thank you, PJ. Any questions for PJ or the applicant? Mr. Smith, if you'd like to come up, Mr. or Mrs. Smith.
Good morning, Ron Smith.
Good morning, sir. Any questions for the applicant or PJ?
The only question I'd have is that is the best buildable site on the property, right? Just right about where it's at.
Yeah, I think the picture that TJ just brought up is very good. That's a flat spot right behind my boat. Anything coming to the front of that picture is a swale that all the water coming down the road to the left of that hill on the south side, and even from the hill, comes right down through that driveway. This doesn't show see the slope there? So if I come this side of that boat, I'm on a slope. If I go to the, anywhere along the south line, there's 58-foot setback, so I got to find a spot. Otherwise, I'd be encroaching on my well and the house. And then if you go to the right side of the house, there is a large swale that drains that dashed line to my left on the picture, that drains everything up into to the southwest. So 2 years ago, when we had the large flood, my house was an island. There was a steady flow of water through that western swale, and there was a steady flow of water through the eastern swale.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Smith? Any motion?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Commissioner Farabee. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
I appreciate your time and efforts. Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, sir. You're up, Mr. PJ.
You need to make a motion to come out of Board of
Oh,
Adjustment.
I forgot. A motion to come out of Board of Adjustment, please.
So move.
Moved by LaCroy,
Second.
second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Kara. Keeps me in line, that girl.
Ready?
We're ready, sir.
Okay. Next item is the consent calendar. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine planning and zoning items quickly. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda for planning and zoning contains the following items. Item B, second reading of rezone 1704 and comprehensive plan amendment 1704 for Kurt Toohey, Fisk Land Surveying as the agent, and approval has been recommended. Item C, plan unit development review 0902 for the Salvation Army, and approval has been recommended. Item D, plan unit development review 1603 for Dan and Nancy Evangelisto, and approval has been recommended.
Is there any items from the public who wish, any items from the public? Are there any, at this time, are there any members of the public who wish to remove any items from the planning consent agenda? At this time, are there any commissioners who wish to remove any items from the planning consent agenda?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
item C.
C? Any others? If not, can we have a motion for B and D, please?
It's my motion to approve B and D.
Second.
By Buschard, second by LaCroy. Any discussion on item B and D from the consent agenda? Not? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, all in favor is
Aye.
all of us?
Yeah.
And opposed by Commissioner Farabee?
No, I said aye.
I'm sorry, I thought you were going the other way. Motion carries, by the way, on item B through D, except for exception with C. C, Mr. DeSanto, please. Commissioner DeSanto.
I'm noting in several areas in this proposed recommendation that it's talking about the fire chief approving for fire pits and open burning. And I don't think the fire chief has authority to do so. I think that only the National Forest Service or the Secretary of Ag has permission to give permission for open burn.
We actually got emails from them today with the permits. I gave them to Cassie, who was going to present this item, so she probably got stuck up at the front counter. We do have that information. I don't have it with me. I gave it to her.
Okay. That was my concern, that, we're getting permission from the wrong people to have open burn. And I'd hate to be responsible for burning down the national forest.
Oh, yeah.
Is that just like one of the stipulations?
Sorry?
Is
One of
that
the
just
conditions? That's what he was asking about. Yeah. We could change it if you want to make it a little bit broader to appropriate fire
Why'd they make
administrator
it-
for the area.
Yeah.
PJ, why'd they make it a planned unit development for a Salvation Army camp?
Because the varying uses, this was done a long time ago. What was it, 09? I don't know what the reasoning was behind it in the first place. I know they do have a lot of different uses on that property.
I guess
that's where my concern is a bit too, is that they have many different uses and you're giving them up to 100 stay at night. And I guess, does it say all the uses that they do here at the Salvation Army?
Well, yep, if you look at number 5 on the conditions, it kind of lists what they've been doing.
Roman numeral 5.
It says a bunkhouse, picnic shelter. drain fields.
Showers, toilets, church shelter, fire pits with seating, officers' residence, 2 wells, drain fields,
I
expansion.
mean, what
of
activities?
Pastures.
Not,
Oh, those specifically? No, I don't know what those would be. Like jamborees or.
so
that
how
kind
do
of
we
stuff.
know that all these fit the criteria for their events that they're having there? Or we just go with that they don't have 100 people overnight and,
Until somebody complains, we don't attend the activities.
What was, you were about ready to say something about you could change something so Mark would be.
So on number 10, which I think is the one that Commissioner DeSanto was asking about, that no open fire shall be permitted unless approved by the state wildfire suppression or Johnson Siding Fire Chief, is that the one you were?
Number 10, number 11, number 9 on page 4 of 8. I mean, it says it in about 10 different places. Number 9 and 10 on page 4 of 8.
Okay.
is there a problem with continuing it until the next meeting?
No.
No?
They've been in operation for some time.
Okay.
It's not going to affect what they're doing.
Maybe we'll just do a continue until the next meeting
Yep.
and then we can.
And we can get with Jerome and find out what he prefers as far as the correct language.
Okay.
Will that work?
And then for, a question for you, Madam Chair, for
Sir.
PJ. What is a developmental lot? What's the,
What number is that, Mr.?
this would be Roman numeral 3 on page 5 of 8.
3.
It's number C on Roman numeral 3 on page 5 of 8. Is considered a developmental lot.
I can read directly from the glossary if you'd like. I can read it from.
Okay, yeah.
Developmental lot, 2 or more lots or portions of lots with continuous frontage and single ownership of record prior to February 1st, 1994, where all or part of the lots do not meet the requirements established for lot width and area, which for the purposes of these zoning ordinances shall be considered to be an undivided lot.
So we're taking a bunch of lots that don't really meet lot specs, combining them together to make them into one lot.
They still have lot lines on them, and I believe that Directive of Equalization is going through and kind of dividing those up and assigning separate tax IDs to those. As
Okay.
far as building permit purposes, they're allowed to, if it's a developmental lot and we take it to the state's attorney's office and they agree, then they can build across that property line.
Okay.
That's what we use developmental lots for. It may be used differently in another department.
And with the language in there that talks about frontage of what? The Thunderhead Falls Road or continuous frontage? Continuous, like they all have one
The same front.
front?
That's the way that I've
Okay.
interpreted it.
All right, yeah, it kind of confused me. Okay.
Back when I was out there when I was a kid, I thought the cabins and stuff were close to the creek. Are they, I guess, do we have any pictures of,
Like that. There's some of the structures right here.
those are the structures that are there now and they're out of the floodway or not close to the flood, they're surrounded by.
Mhm.
I
They
remember
are.
that when I was a kid. We do have a motion to continue by Mr. DeSanto. Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Buskerud. Any discussion?
I've got a,
Commissioner Farabee.
that prompts an interesting question. The new candy store out there at Three Forks, if, you know, we had to abolish the lot lines so they could build across them, which I had no problem with, and the candy store, I guess, is open already.
Yes, it's been open for some time.
And so if it had been prior to 94, those lot lines, then we wouldn't have done that. We could have called it a developmental lot.
If they had been sold together continuously with similar frontage and meet the definition.
Okay, I mean, that's just, you know, all right.
Thank you. There's been a motion on continuance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We're on item E, regular agenda items.
Item E is, let me get that in here. is second reading of, it's the second reading of Plan Unit Development Amendment 1701 for Karen Moore. The amendment is for the existing Plan Unit Development to allow for a specialty and recreational resort for a bed and breakfast and events such as weddings, receptions, company picnics, family reunions, bridal and baby showers, and other types of small gatherings similar in nature, and possible additional of RV sites in accordance with Section 213. Basically, they already have 2 existing PUDs, and they just bought another property, and they're just looking to consolidate everything under one report. This was continued by Commissioner Farabee and Commissioner DeSanto. They wanted to see an engineered study to find out what was and what wasn't in. I think that's basically how it was put. So we went back to the 2009 study done by land surveyor and engineer Steve Finkelstad. Basically, as discussed last meeting, the entire property is either floodway or floodplain. So I'm not sure what the questions are at this time.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have questions? Commissioner Farabee?
That wasn't in our packet, but I guess it's up there now, so.
Correct. We just got permission yesterday to use it.
Oh, okay. So now we have, I think last meeting I mentioned that FEMA has a broad approximation of where floodways and floodplains are. And then from there, you have to get an engineered study to get a less approximate, but not exact, obviously, but less approximate. So the engineered study says that it's pretty much all floodplain, the entire property.
Yet back in 2013, when they took other properties out of the floodplain, they shrunk what was the floodplain and the floodway, which then raised it on other properties. This property hasn't been studied after 2013 because they haven't done any improvements to substantiate a new study on that property. Everything is legal non-conforming. They haven't been substantially damaged, substantially improved, which by our ordinance or from the FEMA regulations would require an additional study.
Well, it seems kind of logical to me, obvious, that if it's entirely floodplain, that there probably shouldn't be any more development.
Floodplain you can build in, George, not floodway. Sorry, I'll stop.
Don't agree with that.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner DeSanto.
It does, quite a lot of it includes floodway as well. All the way along the creek is floodway, from one end to the other.
We just had a Salvation Army camp surrounded by floodway and floodplain. Should we make them do a survey? You know, you should do it for not just one, we should do it for all. And for me, there's a lot of kids and everything in that area. So maybe we should have everybody we think that's in the floodway or floodplain do a study.
Madam Chair, if they were to substantially improve any of the existing legal non-conforming structures, they would have to do that.
Right.
Right now, they're not proposing to do it. They're proposing additional RV sites, but until they do that, there's nothing that us or FEMA can require.
And saying we have that on our fairgrounds.
So once they do that, then they're going to have to do that study.
The minute they start changing things, everything changes. But right now, they're looking to keep everything the same. They're proposing additional uses, but until they actually put shovel in the ground to do those uses, they're okay.
How long have they been here by chance? Folks, if you'd like to come up.
Sorry, the applicants are in the audience if you have any questions.
Just let me say, item 26 says that approved floodplain development permit obtained prior, I mean, it's on
Yeah.
there, so.
How long have you been there, Miss Moore?
I'm Karen Moore. We've had the Section B for 21 years, and we've had Section C for 14 years.
Thank you.
There you go.
Any questions for Miss Moore? Board, Commissioner DeSanto?
My biggest concern, folks, is how the proximity to the stream and the number of RV sites that you want to put on there is going to increase septic flow and so forth. And we've already had some sampling points downstream by Sheridan Lake that were high concentrations of bacteria. And I'm concerned about that. When you get into Sheridan Lake, if there's stuff leaking into that stream, the minute that stream flows into Sheridan Lake, you're at a swimming beach, and you got people swimming right where the outflow of that may be. So that's my biggest concern is polluting that stream with additional.
But you wouldn't allow us to do it then when we came to get a building permit. We'd have to do a flood study, right?
We'd have to do a flood study plus because you'd be putting a septic in the floodplain. The
Right.
DNR would have to approve it. All that's in the conditions.
We've had to deal with that with everything that we've done, and we've had 3 flood studies done.
Yeah, this
Every time we want to do something, we got to get a flood study.
flood study.
So we're familiar with it.
This area's been done so much, FEMA actually used Steve's information for the map.
And that makes sense, so my concern is well-founded.
There you go, sir. Any other questions? Commissioner Farabee?
The request is to amend the existing plan unit development to allow for a recreational resort for bed and breakfast. And to me, that translates to more human waste. And to me, there's already way too much. I'll back up and say, okay, at the peak, how many people would be going potty in that small area? And we're going to add more people to it. And the creek is halfway around that place. You know, it makes no sense to me that it's already crammed way too full.
Thank you. I just have one answer to that. DENR determines that, not this board. They will shut them down if they are not complying with their septic and what they're supposed to do with that waterway around that septic. So I don't think we can determine by how many people, just by guessing, that they're going to be not in compliant. They have rules and regs through the state. And I would hopefully, I know the DNR would check, and again, these guys this ain't their first rodeo at this business, so I would hope, and I know at this point, they know the rules.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
just to
DeSanto.
point out, that's actually, I'm just reading, that's part of the 43 conditions, is that the applicant obtain approval from the South Dakota Department of Environmental and Natural Resources for the existing means of wastewater disposal, servicing the residents prior to operation of bed and breakfast.
Number 9.
Number 9, as well as getting permission for the porta potties too, so.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by LaCroy, is there a second? I'll second it for discussion. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I'm back to condition 36, is still there. Open fires, fire pits, fireworks, charcoal burning grills, and so on and so forth shall be not allowed without permission from the owner. I mentioned last time I went to jail because I supposedly burned without a permit. I had a permit from the Secretary of Agriculture, but I didn't count for the peons. But anyway, Chapter 34, 35, I suggest that all of you become familiar with. Chapter 34, 35, it talks about the Black Hills Fire Protection District, and the only person in that law that can authorize open fires is the South Dakota Secretary of Agriculture, and of course they throw on the Forest Service as well, but Secretary of Ag. So do we want to get ourselves in a liability situation where the owner says, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it?
Madam Chair, can I answer that?
Commissioner.
No.
Planning Director, PJ,
Yep,
please.
the rest of that condition reads, the owner must comply with any and all federal, state, and/or local laws and ordinances or rules regarding open fire. So if the state says no, the owner has to abide by that. If the state says yes, the owner can still say no.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I think we read that. Thank you.
Thank you.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no. Commissioner Farabee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're on items from the chair and commission members. I'll let the commission members go first. Any items?
No items.
I did go to the NACO conference here with Sharon Chom and Barry and Brian Mueller. Let's see, who else was there? Judge Fifley, Tom from, I can't remember where Tom was from, but he's my friend, but that's anyway, they had a panel and they had people asking them questions about JDC and our juvenile services and the things that we have moved ahead in Pennington County and how we are doing things here at Pennington County. And we had people from Illinois and all over the United States here, and that was pretty awesome to watch, that people were asking our people from our judicial system, Mr. Vargo as well, and they were very helpful. And boy, the questions, I don't think I've seen so many questions at a meeting in my entire life, but they had it for a couple days. But the people there were very nice and very informative of helping some of the things they do and we do. So I enjoyed that a whole lot. And then hopefully that's all I have to say. Anybody else? Okay, how about committee reports?
None to report. Nothing to report.
McCrory, you have any committee report?
They're too old. No, I do, you know what? Last month I started on, I'm on the South Dakota Advisory Council for Civil Rights, and we had our meeting in Aberdeen a couple months ago. The report should come out in about 2 or 3 more weeks. We took 7 hours of testimony, reports and testimony and so forth, so that'll come out. We're looking at having another meeting in Mobridge. Well, we were gonna do Mobridge, but now it's gonna be Pierre. We're looking at addressing the protest. So I'll have to get back with you on the clarification, because there's some different stuff that we've been discussing, so I don't want to throw anything out there without having the facts and the group's approval. But we're looking at probably August for the peer presentation.
Nice.
And it's on subtle effects of racism. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Fairby.
Well, as you recall, I don't have any committees except that one, and they only meet once a quarter, so.
They kicked him all off.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I do have a report on 4-H, but Holly's going to have to help me with a date. They're having a fundraiser to raise money for cattle loss in Kansas due to the wildfires. And
I want to say it's this Friday or next Friday.
it seems like it's next Friday. But we'll double check. But I would encourage people to attend that fundraiser if they're in town, to help those. I mean, they helped us out when we had Atlas, and therefore I feel like we should return the favor and help them out now that they've lost a bunch of their cattle due to fires. So.
Nice. I also, one thing I did is I went to Interior with Mr. Harvey, our fire administrator, and they fed us buffalo burgers and fed us very well. And the fire board is made up of many different areas in Pennington County, and what a good team to watch work together. Mr. DeSanto's been there where we had the team there. But it was an eye-opener just seeing Interior in that area and how well they work together. And I've been asking people that were from the reservation, and they just and have seen the Interior Fire Department, the volunteer fire department work, and they were just impressed with the people that work there. There was men and women there that were pretty awesome. They had a guy, he was from Georgia. They called him, I can't remember if they called him Georgia. I called him Georgia. I think they called him Peach or something. But he was telling the story about the 911 when he had to call in, and he's talking, with that accent, and they couldn't understand what he was saying. And he was just pretty cool to listen to, and just the fired up volunteers that you just listen to them, and they just love their job, and it's pretty awesome. Just the men and women were getting me excited just being there watching what they do, and they showed me all their trucks and their different apparatus, so I really appreciated them doing that. And all the fire departments that I've been visiting throughout Pennington County have been very cordial to me and teaching me on many things of their equipment and other things that they do every day to save people's lives. So I'd like to thank them for everything they do and helping me as well to understand it.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. How about 22, approval of vouchers? We have a motion.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Buschard, motion by Buschard, second by LaCroy. Any discussion?
And Madam Chair, they're getting a lot
Fairby.
better about having a description of every item. I commend them for that. But I'll still be voting no because we're spending too much money.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I will mirror the comment that George just made about them doing better at telling us what they're spending money on.
Thank you. And the other thing you can do is go up to their office too, because they're very cordial about helping you understand some of that. Take my word for it. So we do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 no, Commissioner Fairby. Items from the public. Your name, sir?
Madam Chairman, Dan Richer again. I've been waiting quite a few meetings to bring this up. I think you need to look closely at how to speed up your meetings. I've got some suggestions that I know will go in the garbage can, but it took an hour and a half to get through to item 14, and you made one significant vote, and that was a lien request on item 11. Seriously, these, going through all these resolutions and that could very well be put in a package. You could have the people in here. If you have any questions, you can make a statement how great and wonderful these people are. And if you have the boss sitting here and you got any questions, you could ask them, and bam, you're out of there. I know what you're gonna say, got to do this to recognize people and all that stuff. I've been through 5 Veterans Days with this commission, and the best I ever got was the chairman saying, we need to recognize our veterans. That's it. Comments after the votes. You just gotta quit doing that. I mean, you all make comments after you've voted yea or nay or whatever, and I think, Commissioner Buskerud and DeSanto are the only two that don't make comments after the vote unless somebody says something that they don't agree with. And that's unnecessary. You voted, it's done.
It's all good, guys.
Abatements, unless there's something written in law, there's no reason they can't be in a consent agenda unless, and you guys can pull them off if you got questions, unless there's something in law that says that he has to read every one of them things to you. They should be in consent agenda. Items for directors and board of adjustment should be right up the front. Now, and my reason for that is, you've got section heads sitting out here 2-3 hours waiting to say they're like, for example, Tom sat here for 2 hours and 20 minutes to discuss the road. If that stuff was, all the stuff from the directors, board of adjustments and all that was all moved to the front, you could get through all that, they could get back to work. The people that have to take off work to sit through that could get back to work instead of having to wait until a minimum of 10:30. Usually it's closer to 12:30 before you get to it. So, and the other suggestion I'd have is move your 10:30 on Board of Adjustment to 10 o'clock in case you're actually running early and you don't have to take a 20-minute break to wait till 10:30. And if you make it 10 o'clock, if you happen to get done at, it's a rare occasion, but if you happen to get done at 5 minutes to 10, you only got to sit for 5 minutes instead of 35 minutes. And that doesn't mean you have to make 10 o'clock, but it's there if you actually do make 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Richard.
So, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto.
I'd like Mr. Richard to put that in writing so I can look at it, and I won't throw it in the garbage, I promise.
Are we gonna make changes to the agenda again?
I doubt it,
I agree with.
but you never know.
Okay. Number 24, executive session. Do we have executive session today? We do not? Whoa. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Buschard, second by DeSanto. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.